It's time. What? I'm sorry, I no longer have use for you. No, please!
Just kidding.
Oh, cool. I'll just lay here then, I guess.
Ladies, gentlemen, and pals of all ages, Palworld is a never-ending smorgasbord of mechanical depth and unexpected places, secret locations or things to do, or just ways to make your experience with the game unbelievably easier or simpler to allow you to play the way that you want to. Because at the end of the day, we all find fun in our own ways, especially in a game with as many different mechanics to actually dive into as this one. So let's talk about some ways to actually change your fun, either by making it greater or by moving it around, because today we're going over another lovely list of tips, tricks, and secrets to hopefully help expand your mind when it comes to Palworld knowledge and grant the ease of existence that extra knowledge will offer. So without further ado, let's begin with what is pretty much the biggest thing of today, discovered very recently by the community, and specifically this post on Reddit, which is the fact that you can actually butcher pals without butchering them. Specifically what I mean by this is that if you initiate the butchering action on a mountable pal, it has to be mountable, just as the butchering animation itself finishes, you then hold the mount interact button before the pal disappears, and you will both butcher but also mount the pal, which results in the pal not disappearing, which results in you getting all of its drops and materials, but then also the pal doesn't actually die. So essentially, yes, this is a bug, it is, but it is one that lets you get tons of free stuff from places that would otherwise be quite tough to replicate. For example, with the best possible use case of this being the legendary weapons and armor schematics. There are quite a few of these in the game, being drop chances from different alpha world bosses around the map, including things like the legendary pump action shotgun from Zuzaku or the legendary rocket launcher from Jetragon, as an example. These have a chance of dropping when you defeat the pal, when you capture the pal, or when you butcher them as well for extra drop chances. And that last one means if you capture one of these creatures as an alpha, then use this bug to butcher them without killing them, you literally can just butcher them over and over and over and over and get yourself an infinite free source of rolls on that heavily RNG mechanic that is the legendary schematics. And while some people will call that cheating, my opinion is if it's in the game, done with the settings of the game and everything that's in the game itself, it's fair game until the developers decide otherwise and actually fix it. So hey, it's up to you whether you engage with this at all, but I think it's incredibly important to know that this exists, especially right now, as there are quite a lot of uses for this that can just save you so much time if you want to. It is worth mentioning that this does, of course, have some weird unintended interactions, like the pixelization staying on the screen afterwards a little bit, or the pal just permanently falling through the floor afterwards, but you can easily fix this by just setting your pal into your pal box and then taking them back out. Then you can just repeat it as much as you want to. After that, let's talk about mining and lumbering one more time. Last time here on this series, we talked about how good the sword was for this purpose, but I was actually missing a bit of information that changes this slightly, and hey, it turns out that technically speaking, Lily's spear is the actual best mining tool in the game, and the main reason is that it can actually get out more attacks per second because of an interesting interaction where you can cancel the recovery section of the animation by crouching. So essentially, if you want to put in extra effort to cancel the animation every time you swing, it does actually work out to be significantly more efficient for this purpose, like 2 to 3 times faster than the sword is at the end of the day, which is actually ridiculous, and all you have to do is spam crouch. After that, there is another bug worth bringing up. Recently on the channel, we've talked about the Sweepa bug that's been going around, how you can infinitely power up a Sweepa, and the way that this is done by dropping a Swee out of your party while mounted on the Sweepa, then getting off the Sweepa and picking the pal back up, which for some reason tricks the game into believing that Swee is in your party twice, even with just one of them, which gives you double the bonuses for free, and you can stack it infinitely just doing this over and over and over to get yourself literally infinite potential attack bonuses. But the new information here is that this does actually apply to other things too. For example, Elizabeth and B-Guard and their partner skills, who have the same functional partner skill as Sweepa does, but as you can't mount Elizabeth, it stands to reason that this bug would not be replicable. However, you actually pretty much just can. And the main reason is that this interaction is actually caused by dropping and picking up pals while mounted, not by anything that Sweepa or Swee specifically do. So if you have any mountable pal in your party, you can then initiate this glitch with Elizabeth and B-Guard. Or I've seen other people say you can even apply it to other passive buffers, like the pals that buff elemental type damage by being in the party, or even things like Gobfin, which boost player attack specifically, though I've struggled to replicate those ones myself, but theoretically, according to others, it is doable, so it has a lot of different uses if you do want to get funky and make weaker pals stronger against the will of the game. Then next up, we have an awesome loot spot. There are tons of chest spawns in the game, somewhat based around RNG. A lot of them will sometimes spawn, sometimes not, and when they do, they spawn, their actual quality and rarity are somewhat randomized depending on the region. But there is one very specific exception to this one chest that is located here on the Astral Mountain. For whatever reason, this chest right here drops like the highest quality loot possible from a chest, but without the need for any sort of key to even open it. It is not randomized, it just is always an incredible chest. Every single time. So basically just definitely come to this spot right here and check this out every once in a while so that you don't miss the spawn timer, as it's extremely good and for some reason just seems to have better loot than any other chest, with also absolutely no cost to you at all. On a similar note to that, we talked about the chests on the wildlife sanctuary islands across the map recently and how good all of these are too, being relatively high level chests that you can get absolutely for free, condensed into nice small areas so you can get a bunch of them without combat, even if you don't want to have combat. But what I didn't realize people seem a bit less aware of is that there's actually even more chests here than you may have noticed at first glance. Yes, there are tons of chests on the islands themselves, but there are actually quite a few dotted around them as well, not specifically on land, specifically on the sort of technological limbs that stem off of the islands. In front of it, a small distance away from the island, they curve around the back, the end parts of the structure, sort of. There are tons of chest spawns on these too. I've seen up to 4 when just going around in a semicircle around them, and with these included, you can round up a solid 10 or so chests per sanctuary per spawn timer, and again with RNG rolls inside of these, with some of the better stuff available from chests in the game. Then just a couple more things to round up then, the first of which being cotton candy. This is a special food item that it has absolutely no degradation in it at all. A lot of the time we recommend using berries as your main pal food source, at least early on, especially because they are just easy to produce insane amounts of, and part of the reason that that's good is that food items degrade and degenerate over time, and only the top item of a stack will do that, so having like a 3,000 stack of berries still only loses 1 berry every few minutes to this mechanic. But cotton candy is a food type that completely ignores degradation, lasting literally forever, no timer, without the need for a fridge or anything like that. It's not the fanciest food, it's not as good as cooked food, which is what you do want in later stages of the game, but it's incredible just as a mouth filler for your work base to keep them from starving. And this comes from only one place, which is Woolly Pop, specifically when you put it to work at a ranch, a farm, in order to graze and produce it. Higher level partner skill of course increases the production rate as well, but basically this was just to say, hey, for anyone who has not found this yet, this exists, this is how you get it, and this is why it might matter to you. Aside from that, on the note of base workers and food, we should talk about the base later game equivalent as well, and that's going to be pizza. You can cook this creation with berries, tomatoes, milk, and flour, which is a fairly hefty list of ingredients, but the actual amount of them that you need isn't that much, and the result is both that it increases the work speed stat of any pal that eats it by 30%, which is obviously pretty fantastic, but then also it reduces the hunger rate of pals that eat it too, so they get hungry less quickly, and the result as a whole is, yes, something that requires a fair bit more effort and management than just piling berries into a box, because it takes all these ingredients and you also have to cook them, but it results in a significantly more effective workforce, so it's really hard to pass up once you're at the point of the game where you can actually manage these different ingredients as resources properly. There are technically better foods that exist for base work speeds and stuff as well, but they all require pal meat to actually make, which means that you have to be actively grinding out some pal murder to make those foods, as opposed to pizza, which is 100% automatable with the farmable ingredients. One final thing then, and it's actually a pretty major one in my personal opinion, is that technically speaking, there is actually a proper shiny pal in the game. Only one. What I mean is, of course, there are lucky pals, they sparkle and they make noise and they have special attacks, but there's only actually one pal that has a visual variant without it counting as a whole other species, and that is gumoss, of all things, who has a version with an extremely low spawn chance that just has a flower on its head, because it's cute and for no other reason at all. And honestly, I love that this is a thing just so much, and I just wanted to share that for anyone who didn't know, either just for the interesting fact that it exists, or for any of you collectors out there who may now have a goal for today. And it's definitely worth mentioning, this doesn't seem to be possible to achieve through breeding, only on random spawns on gumoss out in the wild. And that's pretty much it for now then, everyone. Honestly, the main thing I wanted to make this for you all was just the whole butchering without killing thing. That is such an insanely effective method of getting some of the hardest things to find in the game, and it likely has a limited lifespan before it is actually fixed then. I hope you've all enjoyed this video then, and hopefully some of these tips will help you out in your continued journey through the wonderful game that is Palworld. If you have any more tips or tricks or secrets of your own, feel free to share them down in the comments down below for everyone else to absorb into their own memory banks, as at the end of the day, we're all just here to enjoy the game, one way or another, and if we can help increase other people's enjoyment, that's obviously even better. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.